Hello, everyone. Thank you for tuning in to Condé Virtual Open House 2022. My name is Doug DeWitt, Transfer Paper Product Manager here at Condé Systems and host of the T-shirt Transfer Paper Power Half Hour that we air on Condé TV. Welcome to my presentation on the 10 things that you need to know about the Digital Factory 10 RIP software. This is the RIP software that is packaged with the Crio White Toner color laser printers. Now, the reason I put this presentation together is just to forewarn you before we get started, I am not a classically trained graphic artist, okay? When it comes to my abilities in programs like Adobe Photoshop or Corel Draw, I probably know about 10% of the capabilities of those programs. Yet, it's that 10% that gets me through 90% of my day. So my goal here is to teach you these 10 things that you need to know about Digital Factory 10 RIP that will get you through the 90% of the jobs that you are given throughout the course of your business day. Because as far as this program is concerned, it is a very immense, powerful program. I would basically say that Digital Factory 10 is the Swiss Army knife of RIP program. Now, there are other programs on the market, such as the Forever Transfer RIP and Space Control. I would kind of call those scalpels, okay, because they do one thing very well, which is rasterizing and screening a design to apply to a dark garment. So if that is the mainstay of your white toner printing, you should look at those programs as well. But if you're in a situation where every job is different, you might want to take a look at Digital Factory 10 RIP, which is what we're about to do. Now, before we get started, just to let you know, there are two versions of this RIP program. There is the Digital Factory 10, which is designed to work with 4-color process, cyan, magenta, yellow, and white. But there is also the Digital Factory 10 Pro Edition, which is designed to work with your 5-color systems, like the Crio 9541 WDT. As far as these RIP programs are concerned, the main purpose of them is to regulate the amount of white toner that is dispensed by the printer. This reduces your output savings, or let's say increases your savings by reducing the output cost of generating a print. It's also going to make the print softer and more durable by controlling the amount of toner that you apply to the transfer. The other thing these RIP programs do is they apply what's called rasterization or screening, which is putting a slight distress to the graphic in order to make the graphic flexible and breathable and reduce the possibility of cracking after prolonged washing and drying of the design on the garment. And last, these printers, or these RIP programs, I should say, they've all got cost calculators built in, which is very important to know your exact cost per print, because every job could vary depending on the type of paper that you use and the amount of toner that you output. So with that being said, let's go ahead and get started with the 10 things you need to know about the Digital Factory 10 RIP software. If we can get to my computer, please. Thank you very much. Okay. The first thing you need to know about Digital Factory 10 RIP software are your production queues. You'll notice up here, we have the Pro 8432 WT graphics queue and the photo queue. Now, these queues are set up to apply toner differently to your transfer. Whenever we are in the graphics queue, what's going to happen is the RIP is going to boost the color output of the image sent from this file queue, okay? So in other words, it's anticipating that you're using it for line art, clip art designs, or vector art designs. So it will boost the toner output to enhance the brightness and vibrancy of the design, okay? However, when it comes to resolution, so to speak, you might not get the same resolution as if you use the photo queue. Now, the photo queue should be used for your bitmap designs, your JPEGs, your PNGs, any type of photographic reproduction. This queue is not going to put as much toner down as the graphics queue, but its algorithm is written to enhance the overall image accuracy and image resolution. So in other words, you may not get the same amount of toner output, but you are going to get a better overall quality when you go to the photo queue. So remember, tip number one, bring your artwork in, use your graphics queue for line art, clip art, vector art designs, use your photographic queue for bitmap photos. The second thing you need to know about the Digital Factory 10 RIP software are the preloaded settings. Bear with me. Let me try that again. Here we go. Are all the preloaded settings for all the transfer papers that are compatible with this RIP program. And as you can see, papers supported by this RIP program include Forever Paper, Freestyle, Giotto Parapi, Magic Touch, Nina, and Shockline. Whenever you select your media type, what will happen is your input tray, media type, and media weight will change based on that corresponding paper. So in other words, you don't have to remember all these media settings in order to get the paper to run through the printer successfully. Whatever setting you select within the Digital Factory 10 RIP, these commands here, as far as the media type and media weight, will override the 8432 WDT printer. Now, with other RIP programs, you have to set the media type and media weight in both your RIP and on the printer. Otherwise, you get what's called a type mismatch error. This little trick here avoids that type mismatch error. The third thing you need to know about using the the Digital Factory 10 software RIP is that it is very easy to gang graphics. And I want to demonstrate quickly how this is done. Here we have our Condé logo. It's coming in at 6.14 inches by 7.1 inches. Well, that's too big for a pocket logo. So I can instantly change the size by entering it. I can also set my margin from the edge of the paper and from the top of the paper so that I can begin to gang this logo. I click on copies and you see a second copy instantly appears. Now notice these two graphics, and I'll zoom in. These two graphics are side by side. I can use the spacing to set aside a designated amount of space between the two. Now, if I just click on the nub and drag it over, even if I go outside the designated area of my print, it will gang up as many of these logos with the spacing entered across. Now I can take this node, drag down to add a second row. And again, I can insert space between those rows. And now grab the nub and completely fill this 8.5 by 11 inch sheet with these logos. So just with a few simple clicks, we're able to gang up designs. Now, why is this important? Because if we had printed a single logo, we would be looking at about around $2 for that one logo. By being able to easily gang up, we're able to reduce this to 12 cents a logo. So pretty neat feature there and very easy to do in Digital Factory 10. The fourth thing that you need to know about Digital Factory 10 are the different ways that you can knock out background black. So I'm going to move over to my photo queue and I'm going to use this example here. If you use media weight selections, any media weight selection that is designated as a black shirt is automatically set up to remove any type of background. So if you mark this as your selection, Then as you import the graphic, it will automatically knock out any black within the design. So we can do it as a default just by selecting the proper media. But let's say for the sake of argument, we want to manipulate the amount of black that we remove. Well, at this point, all we got to do is highlight our design. Let's right click and go to our easy adjustments, or pardon me, our production plugins right here. And let's move down to knock me black out. And as you can see, with one click, we can knock out the background black of the design. Instead of a default setting, we can use settings such as underbase, where we decide to keep some of that black or maybe remove a little more. Other things we can do is we can show the underbase how it will print. This is important because the denser areas here represent a heavier toner concentration, while the lighters area here represents a lighter toner concentration. So basically you can see where the thick areas of the design are going to be by enhancing the show underbase feature. We can also click on this red mask. This will basically show us where all pixels will print within the design. And we could select shirt color. And just for fun, I'll change to show you how it works. But now we can see how our design looks against different shirt colors. But of course, if we're knocking out black, we're doing this to go against a black garment. So as you can see, very easy to use controls here and more than one method to knock out black from a design. Okay, so now the next thing that we need to know about the Digital Factory 10 RIP is, well, what if we need to remove white from a design if we're going on to a white or light color garment? We can use this example here. We will right click. Let's go back to our production plugins, but this time let's select knock me color out. Allow me to zoom in. And as you can see, the checkered areas here represent the white that is being removed from this design. So we can allow the shirt color, the white of the shirt color, to come through and fill in. What this does is it reduces the feel or the hand of the design, and having these open areas will definitely aid in wash durability. Now, one thing I would like to do here is focus in on the arm. As you can see here, it looks like part of the bride's arm may drop out. And of course, it's trying to replicate this shadow effect here. And of course, what we can do is adjust that underbase to remove more or less white. We can adjust the midtones. And we can start adjusting the opaque to fill in that skin tone. So basically, we can allow the printer to fill in the skin tone as opposed to dropping this part out and having the white of the shirt color come through. We can always reset. And again, we could show the underbase, which is the toner concentration where it will print. We can see the red mask, and we can see what it's supposed to look like behind our background color. So, very easy ways to remove black background and white background using the Digital Factory 10 RIP. Now, removing black background and white background seems pretty easy. Anybody that has worked with graphics program knows that removing a color background can be a bit more difficult. So let me show you what I'm going to call tip number 6 for the Digital Factory 10 RIP, which is learning how to use the fluid mask to remove a color background. So here we have our design. Let's right click to access, and let's go to edit with fluid mask. At this point, the RIP program will bring the graphic into the fluid mask program, and the fluid mask program will begin to map out the colors. And as you can see, we've got them separated here. We default to a delete local brush. Okay, we can change the pixel size here by moving up and down or dragging our bar over. But once we find a color that we want to remove, let's say, for instance, this background pink, we just go ahead and select it. And with one click, because of the mapping feature, we've selected all this background pink, with the exception of right down here underneath the sleeve. So let me zoom into this area. Let me resize my brush. And let's select that. Okay. Now let me zoom out. Once I'm happy with my selections, we can go ahead and create the cutout. And now we've removed the background from this design. So essentially, if we go ahead, save and apply, we can bring this edited file back into our RIP with that pink background removed. And now we have the photograph that we can apply to any background shirt color that we want. So very easy to work when we're using fluid mask. The next thing I want to work on, and hold on, my RIP has to generate the preview. I'm jumping ahead of myself, ladies and gentlemen. I apologize. One thing I will say about working with Digital Factory 10 RIP, it does need a powerful PC in order to work efficiently. If you have any questions about the size PC that you need to operate this printer or operate this software, please don't hesitate to contact us. Let us know. We'll send you all the specification information on this program. Personally, I have a solid state hard drive within this laptop, which does help. But as you can see, it may take a minute or two to edit the design. But as far as this design is concerned, now it's ready to apply against any background color I want. Just to demonstrate. Give it one more second here. Any second now. There we go. All right, so that's removing color background using the Digital Factory 10 RIP. The tool that's inside of the RIP is called Fluid Mask. We're going to move on to my next tool, what I would call tip number 7, as far as what you need to know about the Digital Factory 10 RIP. And this is what we call Supersize Image. And I think that this is just an absolute awesome feature. It is an easy way to increase the image resolution of a graphic that you bring in. Because anyone who's been in the industry a while basically knows that someone is inevitably going to give you a small, low-res image they want you to blow up into a full bleed shirt. It's very easy to do with Digital Factory 10 RIP. I'm going to highlight this one here. I'm going to right click, and let's move down to Supersize Image. Now, as we can see here, we've got the current image resolution, which is at 95 dpi. I could blow this image up to a maximum resolution of 2007 dpi. My advice, ladies and gentlemen, is you never want to work with a resolution that high, because your computer will never print the file. It will basically spend days trying to rip that size file. However, what I would recommend is a target resolution somewhere between 150 to 300 dpi whenever we're sending out our final output. We don't need it particularly high res, because remember, we're going onto a woven material. It's a t-shirt. T-shirts really can't hold that much resolution anyway. So I like to work with around 300 dpi image resolution. As you can see, we were originally at 95 dpi, which is a 2.14 megabyte file. When we increase to 300 dpi, we're now at a 21.29 megabyte file. But basically, with one mouse click, we can resize and resample our graphic. And just to show you here, let me zoom in a little. And let's look at this guy here. As you can see, you have controls such as edge sharpening, surface smoothing, cleaning, denoising, vibrant tweak. Personally, I usually don't play around with these. I just go with the default algorithm. But if you were to make any adjustments and weren't happy with the overall quality, you can always reset and then go from there. But once you click OK, basically we will resample the graphic and it will come in at 300 dpi. What I love about the Supersize Image is that for basically, what we would call a, what's the term I'm using? Image rastering or image enhancement program. It's very powerful. I would compare it to what Corel Photo Paint can do, because I think Corel Photo Paint does a great job at resampling and adding resolution. But the Supersize function within Digital Factory 10, I think, does an excellent job, and it's much easier to use. Okay, speaking of easy adjustments, that's another thing we need to learn about the Digital Factory 10 RIP, are the easy adjustments available to us. Bear with me while I focus in on my next graphic. Here we are. Again, if we right-click to enter these functions, we can scroll to easy adjustments, and we can do things like fix the contrast. We can go to easy adjustments and increase the saturation. And now we have a much more distinct, vibrant print that we can send to our 8432 White Toner printer. And like I said, it's just a matter of a couple of easy clicks. Now, of course, there are ways that we can go in and adjust these settings with slide rules and things of that nature. But like I said, that would be for a more experienced graphic artist, somebody like myself who is just trying to prep a file for printing as best they can. These easy adjustment features really come in handy. So let's move on to some other things, which is being able to control or disable the white printing. And I want to use this as an example. and we can run through the process that I use. The first thing that I'm going to do is I'm going to go to Supersize Image, and I want to check my image resolution. And if it's a little low, I want to bump it up. Like I said, I like to work between 150 to 300 dpi. I think that gives me a sufficient image quality without overdoing it, because like I said, we're basically going on to a woven fabric material. So I'll go ahead and let the rip edit. So now that we're at a higher resolution, and now I'm going to go to my adjustments. I want to get that contrast going so that we can distinguish the blues from the browns. And I think with this one, I'm going to make this graphic just a little darker. There we go. Now I'm happy with that. So, like I said, if we were putting this design on a white shirt, we would then want to go to our production plugins, knock me color out, and remove the white. If we were going on to a dark garment, we can use the knock me black out and remove the black areas of the design. Like I said, the purpose of this is to open the design up, so to speak. Let's assume we're going on to a black t-shirt. See how it's removing all these areas of black? And like I said, we can remove more black, less black, and these are going to be the breaks in the design. This is what's going to make it soft and flexible. We can see how that's going to look against the final shirt color. I think we're going to be good there. Let's go ahead and make that change. So now that the design is ready to go, so to speak, now we can start moving into the production process. We're going to double click and open up the 8432 production properties. What we're going to want to do is we're going to want to open up the color layer. And while we don't have to use every single option available, the ones we always want to check first is the layer profile. For the sake of argument, if we were going to put this design on a white t-shirt and didn't need to physically print white, right here, we can disable white printing with just a simple click. And so at this point, the graphic would be created using only cyan, magenta, and yellow toner. So that's how to easily disable white printing within the Digital Factory 10 RIP. If we go into our processing options, which is the next thing we need to check, here we have our coverage percentage. Our recommendation is about 150 for a white or light color garment, and 200 for a dark garment. Basically, the way the coverage percentage works is, if you think of a CMYK scale in terms of 0 to 100, if you have a certain color where it takes, for the sake of argument, 50% cyan, magenta, yellow, and black to produce that particular color, that equals essentially 200. If our coverage is set at 200%, the RIP will not put a white dot behind that color. That color is dark enough to stand out on its own against a black background. But let's say you had a color that was 25% cyan, magenta, yellow, black. Add those four numbers up, you've got 100. If your coverage is set at 200%, you are going to get 100% white coverage behind that color, because that color is white or light color, and it needs the white opacity background in order to stand out. So this is how these RIP programs are essentially controlling the amount of white toner that's deposited down on the screen or onto the sheet. The choke, also known as underprinting, basically this is telling the RIP how many pixels from the edge of the design to start laying down white toner. One thing that people run into whenever they're using the system, if they have what used to be a bitmap image that, let's say, they have converted to a vector design. Sometimes, depending on the image resolution, you might have these outside jagged pixels in what should normally be a straight line. You may not necessarily see them, but the RIP program sees it. And if you've got these jagged pixels and the RIP is laying down white, it looks like this white jagged edging around your design. If that's not your intention, then basically use your choke or your underfill command. And what this will tell the RIP to do is, instead of putting white toner at the very edge of the design, move 3 pixels within the design before you start putting down white toner. And this will help eliminate that edging. So that command is done right here. It's something you need to know. If we intended to use this on a black t-shirt but forgot to use the knockout black feature, we can enable it right here. We can also enable this color boost, so to speak. So we can enhance the color saturation or reduce it depending on the effect that we want. Now, the next thing we want to check is the ink removal. Here, we've got ink removal enabled. In other words, this is telling the RIP that we want the distress pattern within the graphic. The commands that we have to do that, we have our frequency control. If we increase the frequency control, there will be more overall distress. If we reduce it, there will be less overall distress. We can set the angle at which we want that distress to appear. One thing that I would say when it comes to the angle, basically we want to set an angle through the design where if you look at it with the naked eye, you really don't notice. We can set the shape of the distress. We can go round, line, ellipse, diamond, elliptical, inverted round. Inverted round is the default and the one I generally tend to use. Now, as far as the hole size is concerned, basically we could say any kind of full color concentration is not going to have any distress to it. We're basically telling it right now 100% ink. If we lower this number slightly, what it will do is increase the areas where the distressing will start to happen. Okay. Now, right here, this is our partial transparency. If we enable that, then what it allows is natural color transition in a photograph, which is what I always recommend. And again, we can kind of change the size of that transparent dropout right here. So let's go ahead and lock all these changes in. Now, at this point, what I want to do is rip the file. And the reason I want to rip the file is once I have the file ripped, I can select View Raw Data. And what this is going to allow me to do is see the distress pattern that's being placed within the design. Now, of course, this may look a little funny, but like I said, if we set this up for a black t-shirt, we can see what it's going to look like with the black background. And there we go. So our design ready to go on a black shirt. So that runs through the disable white and controlling the rasterization or distressing. There is one more important feature that I want to share with you, ladies and gentlemen, and that is the cost calculation feature. In order to set your cost calculation feature, click on an open spot within your queue, click on the costing icon, and here you can program in the coverage rates of your toner, the coverage percentage, the cost of that toner. You can also factor in your drum life and drum cost. You can add material cost. You can add fuser cost, transfer belt cost, waste toner cost. Of course, all this information is basically based on a letter size sheet. But you can also add in labor cost and taxes and how much your time is worth. Once you have this information saved, you can update it for all your production queues. But just to show you, since we have this job ripped, we can now go into the calculator and see that for this particular graphic, we're laying down about 13.5% cyan, almost 16% magenta, 36.5% white, and about 24.5% yellow. This gives us an overall toner cost of about 82 cents. If we factor in the other consumables, such as the fuser, the transfer belt, and the waste bottle, now we're at a cost of about 82.5 cents. So in other words, we know our exact cost per print to produce this item in an 8.5 by 11. If we were going on to Forever Low Temp Laser Dark, which we sell for about $2 a sheet starting, now we're looking at a total production cost of $2.82. The reason I love these calculation features when it comes to software rips is inevitably somebody wants to provide us a design. They want a certain number of garments. They need it within a certain time frame. They want the quote from you immediately. In other words, you can bring the graphic in, do your manipulations, and provide a quote to your client before you even basically hit the print button. You know what your exact cost per print is going to be, which I think is a super important feature of any rip, and it is very easy to set up within the Digital Factory 10. So this concludes my presentation on the Digital Factory 10 rip. Sprite, if you could, please. Hey, Sprite. Can we jump back to me now?
Yes.
Nap time's over.
Nap time is over. Okay. Oh.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, Sprite has had a long 3 days. She was catching a quick cat nap. That's okay. Because basically we are finished with our class on the 10 things that you need to know about the Digital Factory 10 RIP. Like I said, this isn't going to cover everything that the RIP can do, but these 10 features will make sending your artwork through and getting those soft image quality results that you were looking for out of your white toner print system. Now, we do have some documentation attached to this class on Digital Factory 10, so you can download that information. We also offer videos on Condé TV regarding different aspects of the RIP, so make sure you tune in to those. Watch the T-shirt transfer paper power half hour. Another source of information, if you are a Crio owner, make sure you register at mycrio.com, because if you go to mycrio.com/training, Crio does offer regular training sessions on Digital Factory 10 RIP that are basically Zoom conference sessions. So you can sit in live with instructors and learn all different aspects on how to utilize Digital Factory 10. Now, again, this is the program that is packaged with the Crio 8432 WDT system. And Sprite, if you could, let's show the fine people the special that we are running on the Crio 8432 WDT system. We are offering this system for $7,995. That is including the printer with all the drivers and power cords. It also includes a starter set of toner cartridges, but we include an additional white replacement toner with our bundle. We're also offering a pack of Forever Laser Light No Cut in 8.5 by 11, the Flex Soft sample pack, which is the self-weeding vinyl with about 17 colors for testing. We also offer the Forever Low Temp Laser Dark, the industry standard paper in 11 by 17 size. We have our own self-weeding paper that we call Trim Free IC Dark. We include a package of that, as well as a package of hard surface transfer paper and the glossy and matte silicone finishing sheets. So basically everything you need with an additional white toner for $7,995. We also include free LTL ground delivery with that price. You might be responsible for any type of accessorial delivery charges or insurance, but we will cover the LTL ground delivery with that price as well. And of course, you need to hurry because the offer is expiring real soon. We have units available and they're ready to go. Back to me, Sprite. Thank you. So if you have any questions about the content that I covered in today's presentation, please go ahead and ask your question in the Whova app. We will be going through those questions and we will make sure to answer every one. If you need any additional information on the Crio White Toner systems, give our account managers a call. They are working today to assist you. You can reach them at 1-800-826-6332. And so I think it might be time to move on to our next class. So I would like to thank you for tuning in to the 10 things you need to know about the Digital Factory 10 RIP. My name's Doug DeWitt, Transfer Paper Product Manager here at Condé Systems. My time is up, but I thank you for yours.